Wow, I didn't realize it, but it looks like I'm on a bit of a cliff right here. Look at the snow overhang. I kind of suck that busted loose under my feet right now. Maybe I should get away from there, right? See if this might be a good place to get some people heard. If you look up and see all these slides up here, all these draws, right about now, and more so a little while from now, if you put the binoculars up there, you see big grizzly tracks coming down out of their high alpine dens, coming down into the slides. They're coming down to kill a moose, usually. Got some binoculars with me, I could probably pick out some bear tracks over there pretty easy right now. Grizzly bear central here, big time. Anyway, let's get set up down here. Maybe we can get some shares made. What's that? That'll work. Hopefully there's a good view behind me. I can't tell on that until later on. So I was listening to some of the news on the way up on the radio. Apparently Elon Musk is buying Twitter. I'm not normally a fan of Twitter. I think I have a Twitter account I made years ago. I never, maybe 2 tweets on it. I don't know. I never had a need or could justify going on there at all. But I'll tell you what, if that is the first open door to true free speech for the people, I'll be all over it like a fat kid on a Smartie just to promote the free speech. Finally. Can you imagine all the bad people right now? Oh my God, the people are going to be able to say whatever they want. We got to stop them. It's a crazy world. Now, what do we got? All right, had to move location. That was just too noisy for me. Traffic coming back and forth. So I've hiked up on the Pine River, hiked down the Pine River, and took a little dirt road. The valley's still up in the head of the valley. The highway is still just up at the head here. Maybe hear, might hear a little bit of background sound. This is the Pine River behind me, I believe. Big stand of spruce there. Hopefully no grizzly bears come walking around the corner because I don't have a gun with me. It's in the truck. I've seen 3 bears so far. What have we seen? 3 bears, herd of elk, and 2 moose. 1 dead. That's it. And I'm very close to my destination. Good time to stop. Driving gets to me sometimes. Now listen to this. Countless stories of how the woods fall silent when an apex predator is around. But think about it from the Sabae's perspective. If everywhere he goes, the woods fall silent, then he lives in a very quiet and peaceful surroundings. And it's a little wonder why they hear so well. Or do these predators have the ability to turn it off and somehow, possibly through telepathic emotion? Thanks for all you do, Don Newsom, New Cumberland, West Virginia. Good point, man. I wouldn't have thought of that. Or I haven't thought of that anyway. Everything goes silent around them. It must be a pretty crazy, lonely place, right? Boring, dull place to listen to all your life. I would imagine that's not the case, is it? Otherwise, every single game animal, if they are after game while they're here, if they're not here full time, would know what's up, right? As well as humans. I guess humans do anyway. So this one. Something off in Willamette National Forest, Washington. My husband and I went on a camping trip in July 21 in the Willamette Forest. This has been a long-awaited trip as I'd been asking to go camping here for a little over a year since I'd driven through it many times on my trips to see my family in Nevada. However, this trip will turn to be the first and last time we ever go camping here. I'm very glad we didn't have our children or a dog with us during this trip. We didn't have a set camping spot, but I had called the ranger station ahead to ask where the dispersed camping locations were. I took note of a specific spot that I thought would be ideal as it was directly across the highway from Salt Creek Falls, which is our main attraction for going. This spot wound up being the only option open for us since most spots were already taken. My husband was hesitant about the area as we started up the road, being worried that it wasn't a spot we could camp at but I'd gotten specific directions from the ranger and felt confident this is the spot. The road forked. On one side was what looked like an old abandoned logging site, and the other was a road that seemed to go deep into a very thickly forested and hardly traveled dirt road. We took that dirt road up a ways and discovered what looked like a very old and overgrown road down to a camping spot. I thought this was perfect. We noticed fairly quickly that the place felt off. It took me a while to figure out why. There were no animal sounds, not a single animal to be seen or heard. We also felt like we were being watched. We quickly decided neither of us would be going anywhere without the other. The first night we put a bag of our trash, steak packaging and other food scraps, tied to a tree a safe distance away from our site in case it attracted anything. We didn't get a wink of sleep that night. We heard a couple of things walking around the site, tapping, and I swear, something came right next to the vehicle at one point. We were sleeping in the vehicle. Anytime I felt it was getting too close, I'd blast my high beams in the sound of the truck alarm. I was not messing around. Anytime either of us had to go to the bathroom, we turned on the truck brights and stick together. May have read this one. The next morning, once we all felt comfortable enough, we decided to get out and make breakfast. There were no tracks anywhere, only our own, and nothing touched our trash bag. At this point, I was severely spooked. I couldn't wrap my head around everything that happened that night, but leaving no tracks, and if it was an animal, why wouldn't it go for the trash? The trash is not up a tree, simply next to it. My husband tried convincing me to leave early so we didn't have another night of that, but I was pissed. A couple mosquitoes out. We hardly get time to ourselves, and we have been planning this for too long. We agreed to try one more night. The second day we left the campsite and explored the other areas to see if we could at least change campsites, but there's nothing. We at least got away from it for a while to have fun for the day. Towards the end of the day, we got back and decided not to be out once it was dark. I should also note that there was still no animals to be seen or heard here. We heard them in other areas, but not at that site. That night wound up being a ramped up version of the previous night, but weirder. We decided to put a movie on our computer to help distract us and hopefully help us sleep. Problem was, our external hard drive had mysteriously disappeared. I knew we brought it, but it was gone now. I went through everything in the truck more than once and was growing more and more frustrated the longer I couldn't find it. My husband also attempted to find it, to no avail. I finally gave it up and we played some card games instead. A while later, I went to put everything away for bed and the damn thing suddenly appeared in front of me like it had been there all along. I'm thoroughly convinced something or someone was messing with me. No, it wasn't my husband. He liked sleeping with me. My husband and I both kind of laughed it off and decided to watch a movie for bed. He had quickly fallen asleep, but I had no such luck. The thoughts of the night before, the hard drive, and the lack of animal activity had me too spooked. The sounds of walking and tapping noises seemed to be even closer to the vehicle this night. I didn't want to go outside at all, but at one point, I could no longer wait. I woke my husband, who started awake, and he said he'd had a nightmare that someone was trying to take us. We went outside anyway, though, and quickly took care of business. The entire time feeling very on edge, like we were being watched. Once we were back inside the vehicle, I decided to see if I could see anything when the noises would start. I never could see anything making the noises. At one point, I looked up towards the passenger window and saw a handprint on the window. I couldn't wipe it off from the inside of the vehicle either. I was severely spooked and didn't sleep the rest of the night. When it was the morning, I could hardly bring myself to step outside. I was so shaken. My husband and I agreed to quickly pack up, making sure not to leave any trash, and leave. As we were leaving, I noticed a log slightly up a hill that was completely white, not birch. I know some fungus can cause this, but it didn't look natural. It looked painted. I'm not sure if this is nothing or not, but it seemed odd to me. We were in such a hurry to leave that place that we didn't even bother making coffee. Never going back there again. Not sure what it was out there watching us and terrifying us, but I felt we were not welcome. Always look around when you hear ravens. Always. A separate occurrence in November. I was by myself, headed home from one of my trips to Nevada with the truck bed full of boxes of items. As I was getting through the Mount Hood Pass, I needed to stop and relieve myself. I knew I would need to stop for gas very soon, and it was blinking on empty, and remembered there was a gas station a few more miles up. My phone is also at 5% and had no service. I couldn't wait any longer, though, and pulled over next to what looked like some fenced-in construction area. I simply hopped over to the passenger door as it was dark and didn't want to risk getting out so close to the highway. It was a bit embarrassing and probably everyone's nightmare. As I was relieving myself, I suddenly noticed a large shadow moving towards me. I could distinctly hear the gravel crunching from walking, getting louder as it was getting closer. My heart leapt into my throat, and I've never pulled my pants up so fast. I launched myself up into the truck and slammed down the lock button and very quickly jumped into the driver's seat, then just as quickly peeled out of there. I didn't even bother to look and see who or what it was. I was so terrified. I've literally never been more terrified in my life. I was shaking so bad, it was hard to drive. About a minute into driving, I heard a bump on the truck. There's no bump in the road. I looked in the rearview mirror and didn't see anything in the road behind me. It took a couple of minutes to convince myself I needed to pull over and make sure I didn't lose a box, especially for safety of others on the road. When I did pull over, I waited a minute, checking all my mirrors and deciding how I was going to get out. I know, logically, whatever had been at the previous stop couldn't be here now, but I was too terrified still to really think about that. I decided to not open the door, but only roll down the window and use my flashlight to look at the boxes. I could see none of them had escaped and quickly got back on the road. I still can't help but feel like I had not reacted so quickly or done anything differently. I might not have made it home that night. I decided not to take that road at night ever again. Something I feel needs mentioning is that I've gone camping many times in my life, grew up on a ranch, learned to shoot young, and I've never been afraid to camp or get out of my vehicle before, and it has since not happened again. Granted, I haven't been to those locations since either. Either way, I just feel if anyone has had similar experiences in those areas, I'd like them to know that they aren't the only ones, and we need to get more information put there for everyone's safety. Thank you for taking the time to read this, and I greatly appreciate you putting more information out there. I myself have learned so much watching your videos, and will be making sure my children are aware of the other dangers out there that we weren't taught growing up, or rather had it laughed about and told it was all fake, made-up hippie stuff. Feel free to use my name, Ariel Mitchell. Ariel, I either read that before myself or I read it here. And if I did, oh well, there's thousands of new people here, you guys. And your ticket still costs the same, so it's okay. But you're right, though. People got to know. It's starting to rain. No bears. There's going to be. We're going to see some huge frickin' grizzly tracks, guaranteed, where I'm going. Maybe even see the bears themselves. I'm going to leave cameras for them intentionally. But anyway, that's kind of creepy, the truck getting bumped, right? When you're driving. Let's get another one out. One more quick mention. I do remember specifically another fellow hunter from up in this country here emailed me about seeing one of these things, and he was elk hunting, and he was right below him, and he flicked the safety off, and all hell broke loose, and the thing took off. And he also emailed me telling me about his brother, who seen a reddish brown 8 or 9 foot tall being just down river, just down valley here a little bit from me, right in here. I remember that one. Side note. This email has no subject title. Hi Steve, my name's Gary. Feel free to use my name. I'm an Albertan born and raised, and I love the outdoors, and I do a lot of hunting, hiking, fishing, backpacking, and even some guiding. So this summer, my best friend, who is also my hunting partner, and his wife, decided to go on a backpacking/hiking trip together. We hiked into a remote lake through Kananaskis in Alberta. The second you say Kananaskis, I go, oh, here we go. It was a nice hike. It was a busy trail until the last 5 kilometers or so. It was a beautiful lake, and we found a nice camp spot in the trees on the far side of the lake with a nice small beach. We sweated like crazy in the summer heat with heavy packs, so we went for a swim when we got there. Excuse me. It was such an amazing spot. We had dinner and a nice fire going to decide and decided to turn in for the night. About 30, maybe 40 minutes after getting into our tents, we heard branches breaking above us in the trees, which was now a snowslide area, and was big boulders and pushed over trees. My friend's wife was terrified, thinking it was a grizzly. We spoke between the tents and tried to calm her down. Unfortunately, we decided to save on weight and didn't bring a gun. Yeah, kind of dumb, as I always take a gun, as I've read lots of bear attack books and witnessed the results of pissed off bears. So I'd rather have a gun and not need than need it and not have it. Anyway, the noise in the woods carried on for quite a while. It was pretty loud and blatant, but it finally stopped, and I started to feel strange anxiety and fear. I spent a lot of time in the bush and seen plenty of bears. I never felt like this. It was messed up. Not sure how long later, but we were startled by a terrible screaming noise between our tents. What? Shit. It was the strangest noise I've ever heard, right between our two tents. I sat up and immediately said, "What the F?" My buddy and his wife said the same. It was the strangest noise I've ever heard, like a low wail that kind of went high-pitched at the end, like woo-ah. Reminded me of something of a scream a chimpanzee would make, but deeper, sort of. It started like a grunt and almost ended up like the scream of a young girl. We were all pretty freaked out at this point, being avid outdoorsmen and with a lot of backcountry experience. I've never in my life heard anything like this. Then after the scream, absolute quiet. Never heard anything leave our tent, never heard anything leave our camp, no footsteps, nothing. You could have heard a duck fart from the other side of that lake. Needless to say, no sleep was had that night by any of us. No doubt. The next morning over breakfast and coffee, we discussed the strange experience and chalked it up to maybe a marten or something, but I think it was something very different. No doubt. When I stumbled across your channel, I was instantly interested, and I'm more curious about all these creatures. I don't plan on seeking out Sasquatch, but now my mind, eyes, and ears are open to more understanding of some of the strange things that can happen in our backcountry. Thanks for all you do. Take care. Gray. P.S. I emailed you a month or two ago, and since I did, I had the courage to speak up with my friend and his wife about this encounter, and they both opened up about what they thought it was, and we all now know it was no bear. Thanks for spreading the truth, man. Cheers. Thank you for spreading the truth. You can't do it without people coming forward and sharing and being honest, right? It's not possible. Anyway, it's endless. All right, the other ones are kind of long. This is a bit of a busy. I can't stand the background sound. It drives me frickin' apeshit. So, I gotta carry on. I gotta hopefully make the next town before everything's closed. After I do that, I might stop at a lake where, when I would haul my horses up to go guiding for the fall, me and Mr. Macaroni and my other horses, we'd camp out at a camp right beside a lake for the night after our first initial 14-hour drive or something. Maybe we'll stop there and share another one. Get away from this shitty traffic sound. I hate it. Back in a bit.